Welcome to NHA Today, where we explore the path to lasting health and fulfillment through a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. Each week, we bring you real conversations with doctors, health experts, and everyday individuals who've transformed their lives through food, mindset, and community. This is NHA Today, powered by the National Health Association.
Hello there. Welcome to NHA Today podcast. I'm Justin Williams.
And I'm Stephanie Williams.
And you are a future NHA member. So thanks for joining us if you aren't a member already. Steph and I are life members of the NHA, and you will find us as part of the NHA virtual team in 2026 for the NHA conference. And we'd love to see you there in person too. It's the last weekend in June, and tickets are on sale now. Please join us. And you don't have to cook one bit when you join us in person. Everything's healthy. So who do we have today?
Today we're going to be talking to Lianna Levine Reisner of Plant Powered Metro New York. Lianna co-founded Plant Powered Metro New York in 2019 after finding the whole food plant-based movement and reversing her health conditions as well as those of her family. And Plant Powered Metro New York is what's called a healthy community through the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And they are amazing. A big part of their work focuses on multicultural health. And as we know, diverse communities often have difficulty accessing healthcare as well as healthy food. So the work that PPMNY does is super important. In addition, they serve as a mentor to plant-based communities around the US and around the world. That they've built is amazing. We talk a lot with Liana about how PPMNY does the work that they do, and I think you're going to find it really, really inspiring. We definitely did.
And we have our own plant-based community here, plant-based capital region, and I can't tell you how much of an inspiration that PPMNY is. It's just amazing, which I think I'm just saying what you said now, but you know.
It bears repeating because they're wonderful.
So thank you so much for joining us again. And if you could please remember to like, share, subscribe, all the things. It really helps us grow the program. And we'd love to be shared with whoever you'd like to share us with. So here's Lianna Levine Reisner. You're going to love her as much as we did. And thank you for joining us. Here's Lianna. Lianna Levine Reisner, thanks so much for joining us on NHA Today.
Thanks for having me. It's really awesome to talk to you.
We're so happy really to have you here because you're such an inspiration for us as the leaders of Plant-Based Capital Region. And it was just so lovely seeing you in this past summer.
We had an awesome time. What a great lineup of speakers. Always the best meals at the NHA conferences.
You're here.
Such a treat. So, Liana, thank you so much for spending time with us. And to start off, we wanted to chat with you a little bit about your health journey, your whole food plant-based journey, kind of how you found this lifestyle. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I'll give you a briefer version of my story, which could go on for a while, but I became interested in nutrition because of my kids. Once you start to care for little ones, you start to wonder, what am I doing on lots of different issues, right? Whether it's diapering or just like, positive discipline and all those things. And I was like, what am I doing? How am I feeding my children? And I was noticing also as I was entering my 30s, how my own body was changing and wondering, what should I do next? So I took a little leap of faith at one point and like cleared up some irritable bowel issues with a gluten-free diet. And then I decided I was going to go a step further and I was going to try a gluten-free and dairy-free diet to clear up my acne. And then I did some crazy elimination diet on top of that ultimately left me super confused. But when I found my way to a whole food plant-based diet, which really took me 18 months of digging into the science and anything I could find online that I could sink my teeth into, the evidence for plant-based nutrition was like really clarifying for me. And it explained some of the things that happened as I was making changes to my diet along the way in all of my personal experiments. And so when I was mostly plant-based and mostly unprocessed, I noticed that my the most traumatic thing that happened was I had a hormonal condition called endometriosis, and the symptoms pretty much went away very quickly in the process. I later lost a lot of weight after that. I had been carrying a lot of extra weight from my second pregnancy. And then other little things just sort of cleared up as I continued on the path. Things like the inflammation in my toe, or, like figuring out how to get my skin to really shine the way that I wanted it to. So all of those things became so much more apparent to me, the things that I could take into my hands and really make a difference with using plants. And it was that discovery of the evidence that's out there, learning the world of Dr. T. Colin Campbell and Dr. Greger, and then finding the National Health Association. All of these pieces put together really created the the sell for me, if you will. Like I got it then, because there's so much confusion that we can have when we're sort of steeping ourselves in this or that influencer, or wondering if this or that website is legit. And I really found that my health improved dramatically through this way of eating.
Wonderful. And you said, that you have children and a family. Now, did your family join this kind of lifestyle at the same time that you did, or how'd that go?
Yeah, luckily my kids were little when I went through this process. And so it was around the time, I think my oldest was 6 and my son was 3 going on 4. And it was just like, you know what, if you're gonna do it, you gotta rip the Band-Aid off. And that's what we did in our household. And I remember like my son crying about Cheerios on the floor one day, but then like that, everything was fine after that. So thankfully my kids have grown up, and then we had a third child. So that one pretty much grew up with this lifestyle. And we are pretty strict about our boundaries at home. Like, this is how we do things. And there's a healthy conversation about you know what we should be eating generally, and also what's good for the earth, what's good for animals. So we bring in all the different angles with our children, because they need to be more conscious citizens of this world. And by choosing a healthier diet, I hope that they feel that and live that every day. And my husband, thankfully, was definitely on board, because he had started out as a vegetarian, which I had not. He was a vegetarian for ethical reasons, and was really interested in learning that there was an even better way to live that was even more ethically aligned, and also just was tasty and abundant. So I think I lucked out on that. Not everybody has a spouse who's fully supportive. Thankfully, you guys do too. But we are as a family pretty aligned on all of this.
That makes all the difference. It really does. And I think that's what we often hear from people if they're talking about part of this lifestyle that is a little more difficult for them. It's, living in a household with other people who don't eat this way. So we agree that that is a huge, that support system is huge, which we'll get to the support piece of it in a few minutes. How do you navigate, because I know that there's a lot of parents in our audience, how do you navigate your children going to school? I'm assuming that their school is not whole food plant-based. So how do you navigate kind of maintaining this lifestyle for them while they're out in the world?
Yeah, it's not easy. I don't think there's any reason to beat around the bush with this. Like it's really hard. Our kids, just like everybody's kids, goes to school with lots of people, sits and eats lunch. They sit and eat lunch with people and see what they're eating every day. We, I guess, have a little bit of a benefit being our kids go to Jewish day school, and in their school they have other kids who are all eating a at least vegetarian lunch, because that's what's requested of them during the school day. Um, but it's still a challenge because there's just so much processed food out there. And I think that's the weak link for everybody, for every parent out there. we need convenience foods, and it's hard to know how to do a healthy diet well, whether or not you're even eating plant-based. And I think, I have found personally that it's hard to talk to other parents about this because most are just trying to get through the day and get through the work week and deal with picky eating. So what I hope to do is not to preach, but to model and to insist that when there are events going on at the school or at our synagogue or other, places where we show up, that people have options for us because that makes them think a little harder about where is the healthy option going to come from and how can I provide it. So it does mean that we're we're the annoying people in the school, but I think that they honor that. They understand that every family has different values and priorities. And if we can be among the people who show up and say health is a priority and food has to be a piece of, how we think about health, thankfully, it's on everybody's radar.
Such a hard thing to counteract. Like everything, I don't know, we live in such a society that rewards with junk food. Like, hey kids, good job. Here's some Skittles. And then
Yes.
it's like, the reward becomes the sugar and the dopamine from that, and then processed food. So it's, you bring up a good point. Like it's really important to just advocate for yourself, because I think it's, you know, I I at work have the tendency to, like, I just want to fade into the background and like let everyone enjoy pizza day while I just kind of like stay in my cubicle. But as a parent, you really want to make that a priority, 100%. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we just have a lot of work to do to help adults in general recognize that what we eat is going to impact lots of things, including focus and um, attention, like the attention span of children and their readiness to learn and that kind of thing. And I wish that we could have more of that conversation going on in schools, especially as we're seeing, I don't know if it's an increasing number of kids, but a steadily growing number of kids who are referred to specialists for various things or who just are put on medication because nobody knows what to do with them. And I do think there are lots of other options for children, just like there are lots of other options for adults that don't require medication that are, going back to lifestyle.
And have you had, just out of curiosity, any parents that the children your kids go to school with that have kind of shown interest once you've like said, hey, here are some healthier options?
Yeah, they definitely do. They like to ask questions. They like to ask for ideas, for recipes. I love having people over because then, we'll serve a meal or we'll serve snacks and people are like, "Oh, that seems easy. I could do that." And it's the I could do that moment that I'm living for every day. It's like, "Yeah, you can do this. You can even make these really simple banana bread muffins and have them just as available as those junky banana bread muffins." So I think that it goes back to the modeling and putting ideas in people's heads and showing them the simplicity of what we end up doing in our day-to-day routines to make this viable for adults and kids alike.
That's so important. And excuse me, I can't tell you how many times I've said to someone, this recipe has 5 ingredients and you'll make it in 5 minutes. And they're just shocked because it tastes so good, right? And so healthy. And it's like, it really takes no time compared to, how much time you're used to spending in the kitchen. I think that's, again, one of the things that people will say about this lifestyle is, oh, I don't have time to cook. But like you said, it takes far less time than it seems when you first get started. We're just used to, opening a package and having it take, 5 minutes, but it doesn't have to take that much longer than that.
That's right. That's right.
And I always find that as compared to my sad cooking days, the cleanup is way easier without oil, because it's no
It totally is. Yes. And
just
it's
like
like the worst,
we're done.
right? The worst you have to do is like maybe soak those starchy, the stuff that gets caked on, but starch water. It's gone. Woohoo.
You don't have to have a pan in the sink for like 3 days soaking or whatever.
Exactly.
Well, I wanted to ask you, kind of like, because we we started our plant-based group back in, well, we joined it back in 2021, but we became the leaders in 2022. And finding that group and finding other people that could be like our backup support was so important for our personal journey. And then to find you guys and see like all of the amazing work that you do on a continuing basis. I guess, like, what was your first kind of foray into finding your community?
Yeah, I think it was so early on. I mean, I read Dr. Campbell's book Whole, Rethinking the Science of Nutrition. That was my first book. And for anybody who hasn't read that, if you've read the China study and then you ha go ahead and read Dr. Campbell's other books. They're just beautiful. So he drew me in, and I found his son's film Plant Pure Nation shortly after that, a wonderful documentary really telling about how to engage in community life with the principles of plant-based nutrition on your shoulders, and bringing it to other people through Jumpstarts, through the engagement of local legislatures, etc. And at the end of that film, there's a call to action, join a local group. So at the time, this was 2017. And I went onto their online platform at the time, which has now become Building Healthy Communities through PCRM. And I joined the group that was in Manhattan, where I live in New York City. And there were 80 people on the platform. And I said, this looks interesting. But there was no volunteer leader of the group. Whoever had been involved before was no longer. And I was thinking about, who am I now in this moment, and what might I do with my time? I had been working as a consultant in the Jewish community, doing some work with synagogues and other Jewish communal organizations. And I was always thinking about, how do we build organizations that are healthy and create the kind of community connection that we want to have? So that was like my consulting work. And so when I found this field and the potential for community engagement in a secular space that was all about healthy living, I said, I think I know how to do this. I think I can apply what I've been doing as an advisor to other people and now do that work on the front lines myself. And I really wanted to test out a lot of ideas that I had from previous experience working in the nonprofit sector, as well, working in local community environments. So all of that really came to bear as I became aware of the plant-based health movement. And I decided to take up the leadership of the Manhattan group. And I called a meeting. And at that very first meeting, we had 25 people come, which was pretty good for a group that had 80 some people on the platform, right? This was pre-COVID days, so you never know what you see these days. But I think there was so much energy from the people who were already believers. And I realized that what we really needed to do most was to harness that energy and help more people get out and do the work. So I spent a good 9 months sort of building up relationships with people, hosting some very grassrootsy events. We had some events with doctors speaking. We had um, some potluck events, and we had some restaurant-based events. And you come to meet people, and the beauty of the New York metro area is that I can be in Manhattan, but I can be going to work with somebody who lives in Long Island or Westchester County outside the city. And people who are in Long Island might have a family member who's living in Queens, or friends who are in the Bronx. And we're all part of the same fabric of community. So we decided, I met the leaders of other local groups who are in Long Island, in the Bronx, in Queens, and we came together and created a metro-wide organization, Plant Powered Metro New York, with the goal being to sort of bring the best of what we each were doing in our own, local communities together, so that we could have a bigger impact working working as a team. And through that, to actually create a platform for many other people who may not be quite so entrepreneurial as we were in those very early days where you throw spaghetti on the wall and try to figure out what sticks. But just to give more people who care an opportunity to get out in community and talk to people, support people in dietary change, plan events, whatever their skill sets are, sort of bringing them all in. So that was really the early days when we created this nonprofit organization and we said, let's not just run programs, let's actually build a network of people who care. And through that network, activate people in a way that they may not have been activated before to do the good work that we all need to do to raise awareness in our communities, to educate people, and then to bring them along a path to change. So that's a long story of Plant Powered Metro New York. That's how we got started.
Well, I think it's important for people to hear because, you know, you have to do what you can. There's a lot of groundwork involved in trying to, you know, even just start community and like find people of like-mindedness, find people who, you know, think the same way or want to eat the same way or even just participate in the potluck. That's one of the challenges that we face now is like, okay, well, we've got kind of our core people, but like, how are we going to like kind of, you know, engage them and move forward and keep the spark alive? And it's really like, you know, it's not easy, but it's so important.
Yeah, and I think what really came out of it is that we've built something that feels more like a family, right? You have people who, and I'm sure you feel this too through Plant-Based Capital Region, and the idea is we share certain values, we share certain ways of living, we share certain recipes. This is what actually makes community in the first place. And so when you create space for building that family, people feel even stronger. So like for me, I I can't say that I would have fallen off the wagon without this. I really don't know because I've been motivated in addition, like from my own personal health experiences. I'm also motivated by the fact that you know, I have cancer in my family history and I really don't want to walk down that path if I can prevent it. But you know, had I not created all of this and got the constant validation that this lifestyle is legit and important and the best way to go, I just don't know where I would be now. So, and I feel like we've created that sense of validation and accountability, even for the people who care the most about this. And then the whole idea is that like we pass that on to everybody else we meet who are helping to get on this journey as well. So there's something magical about that kind of way of relating to people that I think you probably identify with as well. But it feels just like the most important work we can possibly be doing.
It's true. And like you said, it's inspiring and motivating to, you know, to keep doing it when you see how much people benefit from the connection. And, you know, we have you know, members who every month will be like, this is my favorite social activity of the month. Like, no matter what else I do during the month, I'm coming to the potluck because I would not miss it. And, you know, they'll be, it's just, like you said, it's like a family. And there would be a huge hole, I think, for all of us if it wasn't there. And, you know, I think the beauty of an organization like Plant Powered Metro New York and the size and the resources that you've built, which is really beautiful and again inspiring to groups like ours, is that you also have found a way to kind of expand your reach to people, like to groups like us in upstate New York or out in the western part of the country, virtually, et cetera, through your Jumpstarts and the other things that you've provided, which is really remarkable because, like I said, you have something so special. So for your willingness and excitement to share it with others and help the rest of us out is just really wonderful. So would you want to tell us a little bit more about kind of the Jumpstarts and the other initiatives you have and kind of how you are connecting with groups outside of the New York
Yeah.
metro area?
Absolutely. So, what's interesting is when we started doing this work back in 2019, we said, we're an in-person organization. We want to get out there. We want to talk to people in the places where they congregate already, whether that's at a community center or at a church or, at a doctor's office in the waiting room, and find people and help them, become aware and get educated about this. So when the pandemic hit and we had to be online, it was just like a big, whew, okay, let's change strategies here. And I think that was really excellent, actually, because even as important as it is to go out and meet people in the community, which we have fully returned to doing in a big way, we also have kept alive this virtual presence because the region that we serve is big. And in the meantime, we reach people all over the country, and it sort of said to ourselves, okay, we have to take what we do and offer it in multiple modalities so that people can access it in whatever way they can. Even people who are housebound who learned how to use a computer for the first time during the coronavirus pandemic, those are folks we want to reach as well. So I guess sort of maybe I'll culminate in the Jumpstart because there's all these things that we do, and I like to talk about our work through the four pillars of how we organize ourselves. And the first is we raise awareness in the community. So we want to make sure that the word is on the street, that when you eat plants, you can thrive. And so we'll have people out tabling at health fairs and festivals. We'll try to align with other big events that are going on and make sure that we have a presence there. And some of our virtual programming is awareness raising in and of itself. If you happen to stumble across us while you're on Instagram or you're looking for interesting, live events to attend online, that's what we're doing. And also sort of showing up in public spaces. So we don't do a whole lot of what you would call traditional advocacy work because we feel like there's so much more critical stuff that we can do to educate people in the first place. But there are ways to show up in community forums, whether it's like a town hall that our borough presidents or our council members are hosting, and then, have people who are talking about plants be part of the discussion where other people are talking about sanitation or they're talking about schools. So I think, we're looking for lots of diverse ways to activate people's voices. And that's a really, I would call it a low-hanging fruit opportunity for many people to do. So awareness is one bucket of what we do. The second bucket is what we call education. It's the simplest, like, let's make sure that the basic ideas of what plant-based nutrition is and how to do it is out there so that we can build readiness. Because when you hear about plant-based nutrition, you're like, okay, but what is it? What does it mean? What do I have to do? How hard is it? Does it taste good? I don't know. And so, like, you go through all of those questions and stages. And so, every week we have some kind of virtual programming or we have something in person where we're, presenting a program in connection with community organization that we partner with, and just trying to get that like basic level of education out there because what we find is that if we want people to like jump into the deep end with us by either, making significant change over time gradually or by making significant change all at once, we have to get past those hurdles of can I do this and am I sure I want to do this, So that's where, the third bucket is empowerment, the idea that we can support people in actually learning how to do this by themselves to build the sense of, behavior change, the agency for change. So cooking classes and market tours, and then ultimately our Jumpstarts, which are like other programs out there designed to help people jump in during a short period of time and make a full-scale transition to a whole food plant-based diet to get that immediate feedback that, oh, wow, my body does this when I eat unprocessed plant foods. That's amazing. Oh, I didn't realize that these meals were so tasty without added oils and salts. Or, oh, I didn't realize that I actually have more energy when I wake up in the morning. And so all of those pieces really come together when we do our jump starts, and we've been running those since the early days. And what's really awesome is we have taken this beautiful base of volunteers who we now have more than 200 people involved in our work, sort of officially on the roster. And a subset of those volunteers are trained as peer mentors, which I know you, Justin and Stephanie, have just done our peer mentorship training. And we help to organize like a matching service between people who are getting started or would like to deepen their practice of plant-based nutrition, matching them with people who've already done it and giving them an accountability partner, a friend, a cheerleader. So, we do that on a rolling basis throughout the year, but also in our Jumpstarts, one of the key features is that people get to know a mentor and have an assigned small group that they will be a part of over the course of a month's program so that they can have fun and they can have connection because what is change for after all? It's not just for us, it's for us in community. It's about, finding the excitement and the external motivation in addition to the internal motivation. So mentorship is a key piece of it. And that really speaks also to our fourth pillar, which is community support, the idea that we need each other to make this lifestyle possible, not just now, but for the long term. So, in addition to peer mentorship, we're hosting dinner socials and potlucks and things of that nature, and going out and talking to restaurants in the local community and helping them to put healthy plant-based meals on their menus. Because, people come to New York City, especially, and they say, I can't wait to try out all those vegan restaurants. But if you are a whole food plant-based person, and especially if you're choosing an SOS-free lifestyle, putting aside salt, oil, and sugar, you don't have a lot of options here either. Like there's a ton of vegan comfort food out there. There's a lot of just wannabe dishes out there. People who want to make their food look like what everybody else is eating, and therefore it really loses the health factor. So we're trying hard to get more and more restaurants to understand that they can be partners in health and not sacrifice their bottom line as well when they put healthy dishes on the menu. So anyway, it's like this huge ecosystem that we're trying to build, and it's hard to really explain the full extent of what this really looks like in action because we're working out there trying to get anybody in the public to learn about this, but also working behind the scenes with organizations that call upon us to bring, people in to do a demo and do employee wellness or to have some kind of talk with their constituents. And there's just a whole lot of coordination and um, you know, educational curriculum development, all the pieces that go into being um, a true educational organization. Like we have to think about all of these pieces and try to put the puzzle together. So when it comes to like jump starts, to go back to your like original question, and the idea that we can offer what we do to other communities. You don't have to go down the path of creating your own program when we have one, but you can add on folks from the capital region, folks from Houston, folks from South Florida or Central Florida. We have all these people now who are a part of our world, whether it's a sister organization like yours or it's individual people who've been trained as mentors who live throughout the country, and they all can take the core of what we do and use it as a base for engagement with their communities and build on in their own ways, in the ways that they see are appropriate for where you live. So we just hope that we always want to collaborate. I think that's like the end of my long-winded story here is to say our field will be better served by the collaboration among the different groups and organizations and individual change agents who are out there. So what we can do is like weave people together, connect the dots, and feed off of each other in this healthy kind of way. That's where I believe the acceleration of awareness and change as a result of our collective actions will happen. So, you can tell I love this. I'm passionate about it. I could talk about it for hours, but I'll stop there.
No, thank you. It's amazing just to hear everything that you've built and all the ways that you've found to reach out to various communities, like it just sparking a bunch of ideas just listening to you, and also awe at what you've been able to build, because it's really wonderful. And one thing I was thinking while you were talking that's really impressed me about Plant Powered Metro New York is your embracing of diversity and inclusion and finding ways to touch communities that I think in the plant-based world we sometimes struggle with with connecting to for a host of reasons. And I think, also, maybe again, families that don't have endless resources at their disposal as well. I think that's another group that I've seen Plant Powered Metro New York connect to in a way that we wished that we could, find the key to that lock, because we know that people want to give their families health, and they want to give their children the opportunities to, have their best life, have their brain work the best in school, like you were talking about, focus wise and all those things. It just, sometimes they have a really difficult time figuring out the access piece. So would you want to maybe talk a little bit about your work in those areas as well? Because I think it's unique and very important.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for, first of all, noticing that, because it is something that I feel really strongly about and I feel really proud of for where we are at this moment. Um, for, throughout the country, we have diversity, right? Diversity comes in so many forms. And I think that the ultimate challenge that we all face is figuring out how to relate to one another and to feel comfortable sitting down and having an authentic conversation with people who are different from us. So we end up by human nature, mostly surrounding ourselves with people who are like us, and that makes it hard for our movement to branch out. I had a really important career opportunity when I was, not long out of college. I worked, as I mentioned, in another community nonprofit organization, very place-based, and learned a lot about the very idea of like relationship building in a diverse community, and how we have to build bridges and how we have to sort of suspend who we are a little bit just to be an observer and to listen and to try to understand people from whatever perspective they're coming from. So that experience really influenced how I thought about Planned Parenthood Metro New York. And one of the catchphrases that I always use for our organization is that we are a multicultural movement, because we have to be. This is the nature of the world. We are connected. We have to be working across cultures all the time, whether a culture is your ethnicity, whether a culture is even your age, whether a culture is your socioeconomic background. And so, what I think, I don't know if it was like lucky, because I don't, luck is sort of a funny way to think about this work. I do think it's like things align when you know that you're on the right path, right? And that's how I feel every day that I do this. But I did meet really awesome people early on in the creation of Plant Powered Metro New York, people who really wanted to bring this movement into the Latino community and in our metro area, people who were already deeply working within communities of color in central Brooklyn, where some of the worst health outcomes are, people who were interested in connecting with folks who are older than us. I mean, I guess our movement overall is reaching people who are age 50 plus mostly. And, I'm younger than that. I think you guys are younger than that. But like, you got to be able to sort of be a chameleon, if you will, to talk to people in their own milieu and um, to think about their needs and not my needs, to think about their flavors and not my flavors, but to notice that we can all love all the things about this lifestyle and all the inclusive flavors that we have. So I guess to wrap it up, the strategy from the beginning has been to find people in those communities who can be champions, to build up those champions, to train them, to support them, and to give them a platform to be the ambassadors that we need to have in these communities. And some of it is that they can see what we do writ large and model it and adapt it and translate it for their populations. And they can also then give us guidance on how we can be a more inclusive organization so that we're not just putting out, material that only features certain kinds of people on it or certain kinds of dishes on it, but we're really, thinking about the wide variety of representation that we can have in all of what we do. So, that's the key. Find the ambassadors, build up the ambassadors from different communities, and bring them all together into the family, because that's what we need, everybody working together.
So commendable. And thank you for that work, for all the work that you do. It makes a huge difference. And we're excited to be able to kind of showcase not just you and your story, although definitely you and your story, but also, the work that Plant Powered Metro New York does and the ways that, first of all, what's possible, because I think that's a big part of PPMNY is people seeing what's possible, because it's just, again, amazing, but also, um, where people can find have a place to connect. If they don't know where to start, they can go to you, and you have a million directions they can go in to find the connection that they're looking for. We're really excited to be doing the mentorship program and to learn more from you and the other people at PPMNY. And then to be able to bring more opportunity to our group and to connect more people in our group to you as well, so that they can also benefit from what you have to offer. So it's really wonderful.
Thank you.
I do have I guess one kind of specific question, sort of for my own self-interest and for our group self-interest. How do you go about approaching a restaurant? Like, what's the key to that? What's the best way to try to say, hey, we've got some people that want to come here, and maybe we could do like a whole food type-based collabo?
Yeah.
I don't know. I might be getting it all wrong, but I
No,
just
it's a hard sell. It's especially a hard sell now with food prices having risen so much, and I think the whole industry is just really trying to figure out how do I keep myself in business, right? So we realized as much as I want to lead with, oh, you can be part of the public health solution, right? Like that's what I want to be able to say to restaurants. But you really have to talk about the bottom line. You have to talk about trends. You have to talk about the people, what we had this interesting moment where we were realizing, if you're in a group of friends and somebody in that group is choosing a whole food plant-based lifestyle, that person can veto what restaurant people go to. And so what we really want to do is find restaurants that can be as inclusive as the people in our communities are. And inclusion doesn't mean that you have, just gluten-free on the menu, which you can't find in a lot of places anyway. It also means that you have not just a vegan option, but a whole food plant-based option. So it is a hard sell, meaning it's tough to do it. And it takes a lot of effort from our volunteer base, who are often the ones who are raising up ideas of places they like to eat or could consider going to if they just tweak that one thing on the menu, right? To find the things that are more like what you call low-hanging fruit that are easily modifiable to fit. So, if they have a lentil soup on the menu, but it's like dripping with oil and so salty you can't possibly eat it. If you go and you say, look, if you make these simple changes, this can be much more health promoting and people may choose it, and you can even publicize it. You can put it on your menu as a healthy choice. And the people who are looking for that healthy choice will care, because how many people have been diagnosed with hypertension in this country? Like 50%. All of those people are told that they should be eating less salt, but then they go to restaurants and they don't get it. So I think it's just like a bit of a re-education process that we do with a lot of love as you go and talk to restaurants. It takes a certain finesse, it takes a certain personality, and it takes the ability to talk to people who are either general managers or the chefs themselves or the front of house folks who are like, you know what, I do have people who walk away from my doors. I don't know if people actually do that, but you have to find what the opportunity is, and maybe sometimes those pain points as well to open up that conversation. We do have somebody from our team who goes out and trains people. Like it's on offer. It's like if you are a restaurant in the metro area and you want to do this, we'll send somebody from our team in to work with your line staff and show them how to do this so that it's still flavorful and it like still gets people's palates saying, that's great. I really want more. So, it is not easy, but I think this whole idea of, you can build more business by creating healthy options because people need it and many people are looking for it. That is part of the, the effort.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the other thing, Justin, is that, we say, and if you do this, we'll bring a group out, we'll have a big meal, we'll spend a lot of money
Mm,
with you, and we'll promote you on social media, and you'll be part of a bigger group of restaurants that is featured on our website because you have this option. So, it's hard for a smaller nonprofit like ours to really be able to pitch that from a marketing angle, but the more critical mass we can build, the better. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be having that Whole Food Plant-Based Food Festival featuring all the restaurants in the metro area as a result of that like slow unrolling of this initiative. So fingers crossed.
when that happens, we'll be there.
Yes, we'd love to have you there.
Manifesting it. Thank you. And well, I guess wrapping up, I wanted to just kind of ask if you had, well, wrapping up, I just wanted to ask if you had one kind of simple meal or simple thing that you like to put together, because it seems like you're very busy. You might also have some good advice on what a quick meal could be or
Yeah.
food plant-based.
I don't have the best answers, but I'll give you an example of what happened in my house this evening. We just came back from vacation. We're about to start school. Things are a mess. There hasn't been a lot of time to cook. What did we do tonight? We made a smoothie for dinner, a green smoothie with chia seeds and lots of fruit. It's the best way to get greens into kids is to make those smoothies. My kids really love romaine in their smoothies. It used to be funny. I don't know if you remember when you first had a romaine smoothie, the two of you, but it's like it tastes very lettucey, but over
Yes.
time it's become like something we all love and we don't care an iota that like it tastes like lettuce. We don't even notice it anymore. Um, so the green smoothie was part of the answer tonight, as was the whole grain pasta with tomato sauce, which my son then like poured all of these herbs and spices on because it tastes so much better that way. And who needs to spend a lot of time making a beautiful homemade marinara sauce when you can take a can of strained tomatoes, which is really delicious on its own, and then add Italian seasoning, and we got a sun-dried tomato powder spice. It's salt-free. It's really good. And he put garlic powder on it. I like awesome. I love that my son likes garlic powder and his nutritional yeast for that extra kick. And like that's so simple, right? And then if
Mm-hmm.
if I were him, I would have added some beans to that. Black beans, open a can of tofu or a package of tofu and just chop it up and throw it in. That's the easy stuff. Now, if I had had the time I wanted to tonight, I would have made like a lentil bolognese because growing up, I really liked my mom's meat sauce. I was always the kid who was eating the meat sauce on pasta. I was a pasta fiend. And so now I love making the lentil version of this where, I'll spend a little bit of time chopping up an onion and carrot and celery and garlic and doing a saute, throwing in that strained tomato can and lentils and letting it all simmer. And I don't know, I probably add in a few other things, but it's like, it is simple. You don't need a recipe. You learn some of these tricks for just how to get those flavors to come together. And there's nothing better than tomato sauce, honestly. So that's my quick and dirty.
That's an amazing answer.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So good. Now I'm hungry.
And you know what's funny is just like one thing I didn't expect in this diet is like how much I actually crave lettuce, and like the idea of having a romaine smoothie right now is like amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so
Totally. I know I've been feeling dehydrated. I'm like, oh my gosh, we like just came back from the beach yet like 2 days ago. There's so much to do. Like I haven't stopped. And then, oh, I can have a smoothie and like everything feels better in an hour, you know? I don't know what it is. It's just that raw food. And that's really, I credit the NHA for being a really good voice for more raw foods in the diet, for, the cleanest way of doing this. I love that lifestyle. That is absolutely the way I feel my best. And I think, if we can all enjoy our romaine smoothies, we'll all have a more peaceful and healthy society.
We'll agree.
Yes.
But thank you. Just real quick, where can people find you in Plant
Yeah,
Powered
so
Metro New York?
you can go to our website, plantpoweredmetrony.org. We unrolled a brand new website earlier this year, so I'm really proud of how it represents us and the work that we do. You can find information about our Jumpstarts there. We have Jumpstart programs that we offer a few times per year in English and in Spanish. And, there's also information about how to get involved as a volunteer, how to donate, how to help, bring us to your community. We can do virtual educational programs, or if you happen to be a listener from the New York metro area and you would like us to come and be part of your community wherever you are, you can always reach out. We love those kinds of connections.
Plus, you can buy a really nice shirt.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time
Thank you.
today. We couldn't do it without your work. We're so grateful. We always will.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure. I'm so happy to be in your community, in your orbit, and in the NHA's orbit as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liana.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the NHA Today podcast. Subscribe and follow the National Health Association on YouTube and social media for the latest in plant-based science and healthy lifestyle support. For more resources, articles, and information about our membership and conference, visit healthscience.org. Until next time, here's to your plant-powered health.